Greetings collectors and welcome to today's retro game review. For today's choice I thought I'd turn to a game that isn't necessarily rare or valuable, but a game that no one seems to talk about. In fact, when you search for information on this game, currently there is very little out there. Today I'm taking us back to 1983 to revisit a rather unique game of Mangrove by Supersoft. As you might have noticed from the gameplay, the games tend to be very short in their nature. At least they are when I'm trying to play the game. To the uninitiated, Mangrove just looks like a mess of flashing dots. In fact, there is some method to the madness of Mangrove. I'll read you an extract from the game cover to best explain. Deep in the mangrove swamps, a struggle for life is taking place between healthy and cancer cells. Your task is to shape evolution by protecting the healthy cells against their malignant adversaries. The hostile conditions in the swamp mean that healthy cells can survive only in groups where each cell is touching at least 4 other cells. The cancerous cells survive by feeding on the healthy cells. As you move through the swamp, a trail of cells is created, but whether or not they survive or die depends on you. You can destroy the malignant cells by intercepting them, preferably before they have torn through your defenceless mass that you're protecting. Your score increases every life cycle, scoring to the number of surviving healthy cells. The game ends when there are less than 12 healthy cells on the screen, the minimum needed to sustain life. Every 1500 points, you'll receive a dose of medicine to clear the screen of malignant cells. You only start with 4 doses though, so it's essential to use them wisely. All in all, Mangrove is a reasonably unique concept as a game. I can certainly think of few other games that are so rigid in their rule sets. As you can tell from the footage, I really haven't mastered this game at all. The issue for me is the difficulty. This manifests itself in 2 ways. Firstly, being quick enough to build the new extended area where a cell touches 4 other cells is very challenging. Secondly is the issue with the malignant cells. Once they tear through your main cell structure, there is an exponential natural decay as the cells are lost. In essence, the rule set is just a little too punishing. It would have been interesting to see what the game would have been like with an options menu to be able to control either the game's speed or the number of adjacent cells needed to survive. The cover notes do give some hints to help you progress though. Begin the game by circling the starting pattern of cells to build a larger mass, then concentrate on intercepting the malignant cells before they can do any damage. This is all good and well, but the reality of achieving this is much more difficult. What's interesting about Mangrove is how much it reminded me of John Conway's Game of Life. The Game of Life is a mathematical rule set where a cell can live, die or multiply. Depending on the start conditions, the game would generate different patterns. I'll save John Conway's Game of Life for another episode, as it is an area of its own to be discussed. The Game of Life is a long-standing application of mathematical rule sets that is still widely taught to those learning programming languages today. I mention it here as I believe there was at least some inspiration from the Game of Life in Mangrove. Supersoft, who created Mangrove, were a British-based software company founded in 1978. Although more synonymous with the Commodore PET and VIC-20, the company did develop a small amount of software for the Commodore 64. Before playing Mangrove, Supersoft's BusyCalc for the BBC Micro was the only other piece of software that I'd personally used from them. Mangrove comes in a standard cassette for distribution. The artwork was used by permission of a company called Audiogenic Limited. This company became a subsidiary of Supersoft and was later bought out by Codemasters. Putting a price on Mangrove for collectors is certainly a little challenging. The game is scarce but not impossible to find. Recent online auction sites indicate that the value is around about the £5 mark. This would roughly equate to $7 at today's exchange rates. Unless you are a keen Supersoft collector though, £5 seems a little ambitious in my opinion. Realistically, if you are buying a set of Commodore 64 tapes as a job lot, you might get lucky. If I sold my edition for £5, I consider myself to have had the better end of the deal financially. As it is though, I collect rather obscure titles, so I'm happy to have a mint condition Mangrove in my gaming vaults. So, the important question, would I recommend Mangrove for your retro collection? If it was a straight yes or no affair, I'd have to say no. The game concept is solid, but the difficulty is just too high to enjoy as an activity of entertainment. I can see what the game designers were trying to do here though, so this is certainly an interesting and somewhat unique game to play. If you are a collector of the early Supersoft software titles or interested in the application of John Conway's Game of Life, then this is worth a purchase if you can find Mangrove for a nominal price. There's a reason why when you type in Commodore 64 Mangrove into the search engines or YouTube that you find very few meaningful results. It's a game that feels to be built more out of academic origins than pure entertainment, now buried in the swampy history of early 80s microcomputing. Hello again, I hope you enjoyed today's show and thank you for the view. Remember, you can always comment, like, subscribe and find us on the social media sites below. Happy collecting!